Thank you, Pushkin House, and thank you, Eddie Aronoff and Stage Russia for organizing this event. I'm Michael Early. I'm Dean of Performing Arts at LaSalle College of the Arts in Singapore. However, I'm speaking to you from the British countryside because I've returned to the UK. So this is always a big international event. And we've got with us guests from London and guests from Massachusetts, Cape Cod, in the United States, and also Moscow. So we'll get on to that and introduce everybody in a few minutes. But we're here today to talk about Yuliya Bobkova's new documentary film, Stanislavski, Lust for Life, which she completed in 2021 and is being coming out soon and being distributed by Stage Russia to cinemas around the UK and then probably online as well. And the documentary was made by Yuliya in the year before the lockdown, which is why you see such a free movement of people, not only the people she interviews, but the people on stage. And then she told me that she edited the film at her kitchen table during that first year of lockdown. So it's an extraordinary tale of how something has come to life. I think this is an extraordinary film because it doesn't show the mark of a documentary filmmaker who's interfering. That is, Yuliya does not narrate a history nor talk about a chronology, but she lets other people talk about it. And she uses the voices of others as a kind of mirror image of Stanislavski to speak for him now in their own way about what he means and what he's become in everyone's mind. So it's a kind of a post-Stanislavski document, and very, very interesting for it because of the people she talks to. There are a host of Russian directors and teachers in the film. There are a couple of major British people, one of whom is with us today, Declan Donnellan. And there is also a significant American teacher of acting, Ivana Chubbuck, who will be joining us during the conversation from the USA, and will stay with us for just a bit of time before she goes back into her own rehearsal work. But the film really is the voice of many people, as I said. There's the Lithuanian director, Oskaras Kusunovas, whose contemporary production of The Seagull, quite a controversial production, is shown at various points in Yuliya's film. There's also the voice of Cyril Serebrennikov, Yuri Butusov, Nikita Mikhailov, Marina Bruniskina, a wonderful, wonderful director herself, but also had a voice at the Moscow Art Theater School. Declan Donnellan, who's with us today, and I'll talk about him in a minute. And also from the UK, Katie Mitchell. And these are all important people. We also have in the film from St. Petersburg, the extraordinary acting teacher, Benjamin Filchinsky, and the very grand director, Lev Dodin. So there's quite a number of voices, and also included, I should also mention, is the screenwriter, actress, and director, Renata Litvinova, who has some very, very interesting insights as well. So there's a lot of voices here. And Yuliya, when I spoke to her earlier about the film, talks about all of these people as her kind of apostle figures. They're the ones who sort of carry the word of Stanislavski in them today, carry the faith and the spirit, which is what this film is about. So let me just get on to introducing these wonderful guests we have today who will talk to us, we hope, with great candor about the film itself, but also about their relationship to Stanislavski. So Yuliya Bobkova was born in Krasnodar, which is in southern Russia, in 1995. So she's 26. It was just in 2018 that Yuliya graduated from the Gerasimov Institute of Cinematography, which is the Russian State University of Film and Film Directing. And she directed, and she worked there as in the documentary filmmaking department. Her first film in 2016, The Last Waltz, was premiered at the Moscow Film Festival and won the Best Debut Film Prize at the Rosivova Documentary Film Festival. Her subsequent films have included Alexander Solzhenitsyn, The Repentance, War and Peace of Mikhail Kalashnikov, and a film called Super App. Stanislavski Lust for Life is her fourth film, and as I said earlier, will be distributed in cinemas soon by Stage Russia across the UK and the US later this summer. And as I said earlier, she's been very kindly agreed to speak to us in English, which is fantastic. Also with us is, of course, Declan Donnellan, who is the joint artistic director of Cheek by Jowl, which he runs with his partner, the designer Nick Omerod. Declan and Nick formed Cheek by Jowl in 1981, for which they've created over 40 productions, performing in over 400 cities across 6 continents. Throughout the 1990s, the Chekhov International Festival regularly invited Cheek by Jowl to perform in Moscow, and these ties were strengthened further when they commissioned Declan and Nick to form their own company of Russian actors in 1999. And the resulting productions of this company were started, as I remember vividly, Pushkin's Boris Godunov, which was performed for 11 years in Russia. And soon it was joined by productions of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night and The Tempest and Chekhov's Three Sisters. And Cheek by Jowl's co-productions with the Pushkin Drama Theater, Measure for Measure by Shakespeare, and The Night of the Burning Pestle, which is Francis Beaumont's play from 1607, are still being performed in Russia and across the world, and have collectively received Crystal Turandot, among others, and 5 Golden Mask Awards, which is the kind of Oscars or Tony Awards of Russian theater. So Declan Donnellan's book, The Actor and the Target, one of the really finest books ever written about contemporary acting, was originally published in Russia in 1999 and has since appeared in 15 languages, including French, Spanish, Italian, German, Romanian, and Mandarin. And the 3rd French and the 4th English language editions were published in 2018. Along with Declan and Yuliya, we have with us Anatoly Smeliansky, who's a leading Russian theater writer, scholar, and critic. He joined the Moscow Art Theater in 1980 as the literary director and was appointed associate director of the Moscow Art Theater in 1996. He was dean of the Moscow Art Theater School of Academic Studies from 1986, and he became the head of the school in 2000. And he's still connected with the school today doing international work. Dr. Smeliansky is also editor-in-chief of the new edition of the complete works of Konstantin Stanislavski and the Moscow Art Theater Encyclopedia. He's the author of a number of books, including Our Collocuteurs, Russian Classics on the Stage, and a wonderful book on Bulgakov and the Moscow Art Theater called Comrade Bulgakov is Dead, which I had the pleasure of working on with him and publishing in English. He spends his time these days in Moscow sometimes, but in the United States quite a bit of the time. But he's taught at many, many universities in the United States, including Columbia, Carnegie Mellon, Georgetown, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and he's taught at the Sorbonne in France as well. He's really one of the great, not only is he a great historian of Russian theater and historian of Stanislavski specifically, but his documentary films for Russian television on Russian theater, I think, are peerless, and Yuliya would certainly know them very well and have seen them. So we're very happy to have him with us today. He's a great man. As I said earlier, we might have Ivana Chubbuck join us soon. Why don't I just tell you who she is so that when she appears on screen, you'll know. Ivana runs an acting school, which is primarily based in Los Angeles, but she tours with her teaching worldwide. She also has a studio in Moscow. She's most famous, I think, because of the work she does with many actors in Los Angeles. So people like Halle Berry, Charlie Theron, James Franco, Brad Pitt, Sylvester Stallone, all the way up to Liv Tyler, Judith Light, and Beyonce. They all work with her when they're preparing roles for the cinema. And she has a school, as I said, the Chubbuck Acting Studio in Los Angeles. But she's also, like Declan, published a very important book called The Power of the Actor, the Chubbuck Technique, which is published in the United States and I guess worldwide by Penguin Books. But she has worked really quite extensively and has received awards by the Russian government. And she's quite often featured in publications around the world. So there's a lot of people, a lot of brilliance in the room. So let me just get on to it right away. And Yuliya, maybe if I can, maybe I can start with you. Perhaps you could start telling us a bit about the origin of your film, why you started it and why you did it. It's not, as I said earlier, a traditional historic chronological documentary. And you told me at one point that you wanted to use Stanislavski as a mirror for other people to reflect on their own work, which I think comes through, and as a dialogue between the past and now. Is that kind of what you set out to do?
Yes, my story started from one call. The guys from St. Petersburg film studio called me and just told that they have had a topic, a film about Stanislavski's legacy in modern theater worldwide. But the first topic was like how Stanislavski affected the school in Hollywood. And the characters were Al Pacino, Meryl Streep, Brad Pitt, and all Hollywood stars. And it was really funny for me because I understood that we can't get the characters like that. And so I decided to make my own version of this film, my own sense of Stanislavski's portrait. And I started my research. I have read the books of Stanislavski, watched TV series with Anatoly Smeliansky series about him, and just tried to find some shots with Stanislavski in archives. And for me, it was very important to find the directors who really love Stanislavski, who really love his traditions. And I'm really grateful for each character who decided to help me with the film, because it was like I made a lot of letters like, hello, can you please help us with our idea? And the first person who really helped me was Marina Brusnikina. She's director of Moscow Art Theater. And she helped me to open the doors of Moscow Art Theater, because it was really complicated to come in this structure, because they really didn't interested in a film like this. So we started our shootings last autumn, and we started from the shootings in Moscow Art Theater School. Yes, and then we found more and more characters and make this story more visual and interesting.
You told me that Oscar Kusanova's production of The Seagull was happening at the same time as you started filming, which is, I think, was probably serendipitous, because you were able to film you were allowed really to film so much of his rehearsal very candidly and overhear what was being talked about between directors and actors.
Yes, we needed this action very much, because I don't like the structure of documentaries where only speaking heads on the screen, and we can look at the characters. And I wanted the main action, the rehearsals. I wanted to help my audience to go into the theater world. And Oskar Skoršunovas, the director, also helped us. And he decided that it can be interesting to make some chronicle episodes of his preparations. And we had 2 days of shootings inside the Moscow Art Theater. And we just looked at the rehearsals. And then it was very complicated for me to cut some episodes from these rehearsals because every shot was like a treasure for me, because I really like the process. It's very beautiful.
And you also said that you edited it yourself, or did you use a film editor? You edited it at your kitchen table, you said, during lockdown.
Yes, it was lockdown last year, and this editing process really saved me because I had a name to make this documentary, and I really loved every character. I really loved to listen Declan Donnellan's interview many times, and it was interesting to me to convey this sense of this question about the future of the theater, because I really didn't know if we will have theater online. Maybe we will lost theater, face-to-face theater, when actors can meet audience. And all these questions really helped me to make this kind of emotional final episode of the film. And we made also very emotional music with my composer, Marina.
Yeah, I think the underscoring is quite dramatic all the way through. It keeps building to a kind of crescendo. It has a kind of operatic quality. Declan, can I turn to you, please, about this future of theater? What's it been like in lockdown?
Well, dreadful. Everything's closed down. I mean, there's two ways. People have got so used to Amazon One Click and also getting it up on Netflix. But I think that some people will be desperate to see anything in the theatre. They'll be screaming to get back into a theatre. But I pray and hope that's what I hope. Anyway, but I think theatre will survive our best attempts to destroy it. I think theatre is a human archetype that will go on.
Yeah, and your productions in Moscow, Measure for Measure and Night of the Burning Pestle, are they still running?
Yes, they're still running, but the Italian one, sadly, had to come to an end, was cancelled. We tried 3 tours, and there was lockdowns in Spain and in France to stop them happening, and again, and in Italy as well. So yeah, our lives are very much on hold. But Nick and I have been thinking and talking a lot, and we've done, out of it's come a lot of podcasts, which we've done with Lucy Walker, who is here, Lucy Dawkins, who is here, we've started to get through the second book. So it's not been completely fruitless, but it's dispiriting not to see people. It's really horrible. Yeah. Some people I know say that they prefer to see opera in the cinema. People who like to see the opera say, "Oh, we prefer to see it in the cinema," and because at least you're not going to be spat on by the singers. They always say that, and they always add a little laugh. At least you aren't going to be spat on by the singers. And I was thinking, you're bloody lucky to be spat on by a singer. What a terrible thing to say, actually. I mean, it's wonderful to be in close contact with other people. So I hope people will come back. But there you go.
Yeah.
I think they will. I think the younger generation will save us, and that they'll demand their theatre, another sort of theatre, perhaps.
Yeah. Anatoly Smeliansky, I wondered if you could tell us. I mean, I know of maybe only 1 or 2 documentaries about Stanislavski. I know there's the great works you did for Russian television. How has he been treated in previous documentaries?
A long story. I'm afraid that I will take the whole time of your Zoom.
Yeah, give us the 5-minute excerpt.
5 minutes, okay. Guys, the point is, what's the difference between the Western world and Russian world when we are speaking about Stanislavski? Stanislavski for the Western world is icon, hero, genius, all over, for the Russians. first of all, at the beginning, revolutionary, kind of a Treplev guy, kind of innovator, know-how, Moscow Art Theater, what does it mean, and so on. And then finally, you know, I will probably give you one quote from beautiful book about Stanislavski, probably first great book in the world. And I will recommend Julia next time read it before she will do anything about Stanislavski and Nemirovich and Moscow Art Theater. It's a book, not my book. It's a book by Olga Radishev, beautiful Russian woman who spent her life 55 years in the archive of the Moscow Art Theater. And she started writing in the 90s when we finally were free, at least for some years. And she decided to write a book about Stanislavski and Nemirovich Danchenko, just one book. Finally, she did 3 books. It's a trilogy. And one friend of mine, who very close to her and me and the publisher, said, "This is our new Brothers Karamazovs." You understand what does it mean, Brothers Karamazov, if you will put there Stanislavski and Nemirovich Danchenko? She 55 years completed all of the archive. She has tons of materials and novelties and absolutely surprising, killing you experience of that. And she put it in 3 books and she organized it well. And the challenge was to answer one question. What kind of hell kept them together at the Moscow Art Theater? Why 40 years they were together despite all of the hatred, all of the jealousy, all of the different characters in understand. There is no common, it looks like no common earth, you know, system. I hate his system, Nemirovich Danchenko. Since the beginning, I hate it. And so on and so on and so on. And she gave the formula of the Moscow Art Theater and life of 2 of them, what kept them together. She made a chronology, 3 parts of their life and the life of the Moscow Art Theater. First life, she says, what kept them together until Chekhov's death, which is 1904. Idea of Moscow Art Theater kept them together. What does it mean, idea? It's a huge question, but this is it. They got 2 authors of the theater, Chekhov and Gorky. They got the company. They created the special type of theater, art theater, which is his biggest innovation in the world. This is his know-how. 6 years, second years until the revolution. Business of Moscow Art Theater kept them together. It's a very funny, very deep and very beautiful definition. What does it mean, business? Not in a primitive way, Dow Jones, you know. Business of Moscow Art Theater is the dielo in Russian. The whole staff of the Moscow Art Theater for the whole world. They were, you know, first touring in the Europe and in the United States. So the first period is business of the Moscow Art Theater. And then after the revolution, this is the most interesting and strange definition. What
Yuliya, I'm gonna stop you there, and we're gonna pick that up because
one phrase.
Yeah, go ahead.
What kept them together after the revolution? The glory of the Moscow, the fame of the Moscow Art Theater. So idea, business, and glory. Look about that, think about that, and you will understand what kind of documentary we have to create about both of them. That's it.
Yes, very good. Okay, we want to pick that up again, but I wanted to introduce Ivana Chubbuck, who's now joined us as well. Rafi, I think we can see if she's there. I think she is. Yes, good. Ivana, welcome. Very nice of you to come to us. Where are you now, in Los Angeles? Turn on your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Very good. Hello, welcome. Welcome to this. We're talking to Yuliya Bobkova, the director of this documentary on Stanislavski, Declan Donnellan, director, and Anatoly Smeliansky, historian, dramaturg, and director for the Moscow Art Theater. Well, welcome. Where are you now?
I'm in a very heralded group here. This is very nice. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Great. Tell us, I mean, you talk in Yuliya's film a bit about the whole absorption of Stanislavski in America. I mean, is in your own teaching, is it still a prominent influence? Have you diverged from it in any way? Have you changed it in any way? Do you take exception to some of it in any way?
I believe that all art is about evolving, and it's about taking something as a base, a good, strong underbelly of what you grow and take from there. It's not take away, it's add. It's not take away and change, it's grow and learn and become and have an even sorry about that, even stronger ability to take the base that is such a strong, the Stanislavski base is the first time that we actually saw truth and reality as a part of the theater scene. And so we can just sit there and say the truth is enough, but it's not enough. We have to keep growing. We have to keep changing. We have to keep learning. We have to keep finding some version of prosperity, whether it's emotional, spiritual, or actual prosperity that comes from goals that happen from our pain and our truth and our insecurities and our fears. What do we do with them? It makes a difference between a dynamic person and a person that is a victim. And we don't want to watch a victim's journey. We want to watch someone who has emotional heroism. We want to watch somebody, we want to watch, whether it's in theater or on film or on television, we want to watch someone take the worst of circumstances and grow from it. Use that information to I'm going to win whatever my objective is in this material, whether it's love or power or legacy or whatever it is that character needs to accomplish, and use the very things that most people self-destruct with, from fears and traumas and insecurities, and use them rather to say, I'm going to win in spite of and because of the things that have happened to me. So what have I done is, let's talk about Stanislavski again. So what I've done is taken with my technique is saying the base is Stanislavski. Then what we do is say, we got to learn and grow from there. Stanislavski was around 100 years ago. We have to grow. It's our obligation as artists to keep changing and growing and changing and growing and building and raising the bar, and then meeting the bar, then raising the bar, then meeting the bar, then raising the bar, then meeting the bar. That's our job, our obligation as artists in this world. Whatever our artistic reality that you are involved with, it doesn't really matter. We have to keep changing and evolving and making something so that we're helping the world change and become empowered by subliminally by what they're watching, whether again it's on the stage. Like I've helped people get awards on stage and awards for film and TV, and it's like it's the same thing. Good acting is good acting. It doesn't matter what venue or platform that you put it on. What we want to see is the recreation of someone who's hit bottom, and then how do we grow from there? How do we take that same information and be able to change and prosper because of the bad things that have happened to us, because we are screwed up human beings. We embrace our things that make us flawed. Our flaws are our colors. And so without Stanislavski, I wouldn't be able to go to the next couple of steps of where we're taking it to a place where people can actually, because in Stanislavski's time, we didn't have television. We didn't have film. What we had was stage. And so we have a bigger audience. We have a huge audience that circles the planet that we have to affect. We have to change their lives in the most, through entertainment. And we want to make people feel as they walk out of the theater or walk out or stop watching that television show, they say, I feel better because of this experience. I don't know why, but I do. And that's our jobs as artists to make that happen for the world, because the world stage has become huge.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yuliya, I think in your film, transformation is a theme that runs through what everybody says. And Declan, it comes up with you often in the film itself. You talk about the transforming power. I mean, you're not slavishly following anyone's technique. It's so very much like with Ivana, your own technique. I mean, how do you respond to that notion of transformation?
Well, I think that Stanislavski is incredibly important, and we all, to some degree, stand on his shoulders. And my practice has taken me away from that, and not away, but I've developed it in my own way. I do profoundly believe the actor doesn't transform. I believe that actor lets the outside space transform, and that transforms the actor. And that's something I think is just very, very important to me. So I couldn't really understand character in those terms, but. Transformation is important, but it's the space outside. I think it's more useful to imagine that the space is what transforms us, and that we are a solution to a problem, not an independent entity. That's what I think.
Could I say something to that? It's like we're trying to solve things with our objectives for the characters, whether it's from a point of view of actors, writers, or directors. We're trying to solve and find some resolution and find some kind of catharsis, as opposed to just sitting in pain and like exploring our painful circumstances. We're trying to solve things. And that I think is a huge, big difference in terms of like first understanding how to get to those painful places, which has started with Stanislavski, and then taking us to a place of solution. How does a character find some resolution and some version of catharsis, so therefore we as the audience can have catharsis alongside of them? So whatever an actor puts out there, the audience gets. And if you don't have anything, the audience gets that too. And if you're just sitting in your pain, what happens is in the same way that we don't like being around people that truthfully and honestly are sitting in their pain, and we could love them to death. But the point is that it's hard to be around people that are always in pain all the time and not trying to solve their pain. So if we don't like to be around somebody that is in truthful pain all the time for free, why would we pay money to see that? And so it's about what you're saying. It's about transformation. It is about transforming the issues of whatever the character is going through, finding some version of personalization that allows you to live the part, and then finds a solution for the character and therefore for you, and then it extends to your audience.
Yeah. Anatoly, I wonder if you could come in on this. I'm always curious to know, and you started off by talking about the Russian version of Stanislavski and the American or British version of Stanislavski. I'm just wondering how you see the training, how that has changed from your perspective over the years.
Okay. First of all, in what we see the lust for life, some people are saying about that, most of the directors are saying about that, and it's quite interesting to listen what they are saying. Butусov, Serebrennikov, and many others. We don't use Stanislavski technique. We don't use it in a practical work with the actors. It's very important. I know that. I keep it somewhere here, but I don't use it. The problem is, let me go from another side. What is the Russian approach to Stanislavski, to the man who was canonized by the Soviet system, who was a guru of the Soviet system, who was decorated with the Soviet orders, who last 4 years of his life did not come to the Moscow Art Theater at all, and came first time when they brought him dead to the open door of the Moscow Art Theater. By the way, it's to Yuliya who did the movie, just advise if you will make the second part of that. This is the end of your interesting piece, The Funeral of Stanislavski. You know that The Funeral of Stanislavski did not show, the documentary was completely unknown for decades, because Russians, Soviet were afraid of that documentary. You remember the end of your movie, the police in the white, stuff, his wife, on his breast, trying to dust, the order of or Lenin's prize on his bust. Everything is great. Yes, the giant died. We are in we are crying. The very end of the documentary, which you did not use, the most important thing, because this is the context. Yes, the police, the state, it's a state funeral. We should understand what does it mean, state funeral in Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. All of the police in the white, stuff, hundreds, thousands of people in the streets, greet. Then they came to the Novodevichy cemetery. I would like to remind Nemirovich Danchenko was late for the funeral. Late. Came just from Rails Road. Yes, station. Came and waiting for them when they would come. They came, open grave, and then the meeting. You should understand. Who interested now in the meeting of 1938 in August on Novodevichy cemetery? Absolutely amazing meeting, speeches. Premier Minister of Soviet Union Nikolai Bulganin. Then Khrushchev was dismantled him in 20 years. Then the worker from very low, plant.
It was funny episode with the worker who told.
Worker, спи спокойно, товарищ Stanislavski. Sleep well, comrade Stanislavski. He doesn't know him completely. This is the relationship. He is God. Спи спокойно, товарищ Станиславский. Then, Nemirovich Danchenko, in a state of despair, started asking all of the actors of the Moscow Art Theater, клянитесь, клянитесь, клянитесь. What kind of swear, what kind of oath they should make? Kachalov is just next to Nemirovich Danchenko. He is drunk. Look at him. And he keeps the paper, Pravda, the communist paper, just to cover his head because it's August, it's very hot. And, а что? Клянитесь, клянитесь. Kachalov, yes, we will do it. Yes, yes, we will do it. Like, we сделаем это. Like Carpenter. Oh, yes, we will do it. Nobody believed. Then Nemirovich Danchenko spent 40 years of his life with him. The most closest guy for his life. What's his main, the key phrase at the funeral? I did not know his deepest convictions because separated. I didn't know his deepest conviction. You know what? The practicalities of Stanislavski. If you would read the final notes of Nemirovich Danchenko when he got and read Stanislavski's the first and actually last book about acting, an actor, what in English is An Actor Prepares. We have notes of Nemirovich Danchenko when Stanislavski died, and he is reading his book with notes everywhere. Sometimes he is amazed. Oh, I didn't know that he went in that direction. Good for him. But more and more, oh, again, Alexeyev. When he called him Alexeyev means son of merchant, not noble, not educated, don't understand anything, and so on. And final, absolutely negative, but said, wrote down.
Now, I'm going to break in there, Anatoly, because it's absolutely brilliant. You're always wonderful in the sense you're like a color commentator in a sports match. You give us all the details of how
you have to combine everything to see the context of his life, and then you would understand what we have now.
So do we have a mythology? And that's what I'm wondering. And I'm wondering if Ivana and Declan, you feel any pressure of working in the shadow of this mythology at all, or does that not matter to you now? I mean, I know both of you are so expert at teaching, at directing after so long. Does it not matter to you anymore? Is there no mythology, or do students come with a mythology, or actors come with a mythology that you somehow have to work through or work with or transpose in some way?
I answer that first because I think
sure. Go ahead.
You go first, Ivana, please.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I answer that first?
Yeah, go, please. Yeah.
I have a class I have to teach, so I'm going to. They're all waiting on me to teach, so I'm going to, because I have to take care of my students. As most of you know what that means. So I think it's really important to celebrate people. They've accomplished something. They need to be celebrated. I don't care if they passed away. There's a legacy that Stanislavski left, And he with a lot of hard work and a lot of perspiration and a lot of dedication and a lot of forward motion and being proactive. No matter how many people found a way to say you're wrong, or this is dangerous, or this is not a good way to do things, he stayed the course of his art, and he needs to be celebrated for that. And I will celebrate him because I think he deserves celebration. I give him credit where it is due, because it is due in huge amounts. And I'm in terms of my Russian heritage, not me personally, but my parents, is that I feel a great deal of pride that he is a part of my homeland heritage of my family history. So I think that people, I really have a problem when people don't celebrate the people that have deserved celebration just because they passed away, or just because some things have changed in the world, like lots of things changed in the world. But he was a pioneer. He was great. He was grand. And I will applaud him till the day I die.
Great. Thank you very much. It's a great exit line for you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Not yet, though. Not dying yet.
Yeah, well, no, don't do that, please. No, we got to see you live for a while. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. I know you took the time out from a class to do this, so we really appreciate it. It's good hearing from you. Thank you.
Good hearing from all of you. A lot of smart people in this group. Thank you for listening to me.
Good. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Declan, do you want to pick up from that? And I'm just wondering if you work, is it a monkey on your back, Stanislavski?
Oh, not remotely, no. I mean, the beautiful thing about Stanislavski is the way that he said that we shouldn't follow him slavishly, that we should cut up and make our own rules. And it's that spirit of adventure and that kind of buccaneering thing at the heart of Stanislavski's work that is so wonderful. What I take from Stanislavski, I read it when I was very, very young. I was 18 or 19, then didn't go back until I read My Life in Art again. But, you know, the spirit of Stanislavski's come down to me through many of the actors I've worked with, many of the teachers I've had, and also my experiences in Russia. I think that the most important thing for me is about life. And I think that there's an uncomfortable choice to be made. You can go for life or you can go for truth. And I think you go for life every time, because truth can be quite a dangerous proposition. And normally when people talk about truth, they're slightly superior to you because they know what it is. Life is more democratic. We can all agree on whether something's alive or not. That's the great thing that I take from Stanislavski. And I mean, so many of his teachings are extraordinary, and they certainly launched me into what I'm doing. I never modeled myself on a Stanislavski practitioner, but I knew it, and it nourished me. And I hope to be part of a chain like that, so that I can pass on, and that I will be destroyed. You know, that as Stanislavski is in a way, and kind of must be. That's what he wants. He wants the father who wants to immolate himself so that his children might live, and I think that's very beautiful.
Thank you. That's really great. Excellent. Yuliya, I wonder if you could just step in now, having heard what various people are saying. Did you find that the various people you talked to kind of hold that similar view, that in other words, they've made it for themselves? They use Stanislavski, they refer to Stanislavski, they carry the spirit in some ways, but really it's clearly moved very far away from any slavish following of it.
I think for me, the most important thing in the film is the moment in the end of the film when Declan Donnellan reads about don't go slavishly and create your own methods. And for me, it's a really important thing, because we are when we were students in GIC, Russian State University of Cinematography, we also studied Stanislavski system, and we also didn't understand what is it. And we also didn't understand who Stanislavski was. And I think my characters have really different styles of making theater, making different place on the stage. But for me, the most important, this kind of mirror. Stanislavski is a mirror for them. And I can see in their stories, in their words, I can see the pieces of his personality and his image. And for me, the most interesting moment, maybe, which I want to discuss with our group, our team today, is Stanislavski loneliness, because I really didn't know that he was alone in the end of his life. And I think it's a big tragedy of a great artist, of big artists. And I want to ask maybe Anatoly Mironovich about Stanislavski loneliness, because I really didn't knew about this. It's really important.
Thank you. The loneliness of Stanislavski, very interesting, and like the loneliness that Declan's suffering at the moment. Yeah, yeah. Tell us about that, because that is an extraordinary subject.
Loneliness of Stanislavski?
Yeah.
If you would imagine last 4.5 years, only in his own house, last opera drama studio with the young people, no Moscow Art Theater at all, and some surreal letters to Stalin, thanking him for order of Lenin and so on and so on. But it's not the problem. Look, yeah, I now just looked at the line which is in my notebook from Declan Donnellan, because I have his book, by the way. Declan, I will show you something.
Oh, very good.
And I am reading that. And you know,
product placement. That's wonderful.
Product placement. It's a product placement. And I'm reading.
Yes.
I read
and I've got
it over.
Yuliya's poster behind me, but you can't see the whole poster. Yeah.
I would like to say something strange. Your book, in sense of terminology, much better than Stanislavski's book. You know what? Because Stanislavski was not a writer. He was a genius actor. You cannot give the genius to the book. And he did that book finally in the middle of the 30s when he left Moscow Art Theater, and he was completely alone. And he created that book for the Yale University Press, you know. And he was completely confused with the lot of stuff. At the end of the play, at the end of doing the book, it was a scandal between him and his first assistant, Mr. Demidov, who is now people are trying to make him the most more important.
Resurrection of Demidov.
Resurrection, yes. Demidov, yes. And Stanislavski, finally, they started thinking about the logical things of his book. And he goes, you know, Stanislavski is systema. It's systema. It's a very dangerous word for the actors. From the point of view of terminology, look, I will just read you few definitions of content of Declan Donnellan. What is important, and to understand all of us, including people of Stanislavski, teachers of the Moscow Art and so on. Look, I don't know what I am doing. It's an actor. I don't know what I want. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I should move. I don't know what I should feel. I do not know what I am saying. I do not know what I am playing. Great. Congratulations, because Stanislavski, if he will speak English, he doesn't speak any English word, guys. He would write a completely different book. At the end of the book, his book, he started arguing with Demidov, who said, Konstantin Sergeyevich, the whole of your idea is subconscious. Yes, yes. But 15 parts of your book, you are talking about not subconscious, about logical way, blah, 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 blah. At the end, who will wait 15 chapters to read the real chapter about subconscious where an actor is playing? I don't know what I am doing. I don't know what I want. I don't know who I am. This is the Bible of contemporary director who understand with whom he is dealing, with the guys, with the girls who doesn't know anything, what to do with my hands, what to do with my brains, what I am doing, where I am, who is saying. My God, so beautiful. Look, this is probably, it's very easy. It's very difficult to Stanislavski used his own slang. Slang means the words which you are using in the work with the actors. And he has лучшее спускание, лучшее впускание. Nobody can use it. Лучшее спускание, radiation, counter-radiation. But he uses that. Stanislavski used many of very strange slang words, you know, to unleash in actors what you by the way call the lust. Lust actually it's a very, very difficult word. Lust is it's a love, it's a sex, it's a everything. It's a big problem about that. How Stanislavski made it, how he did understand it. Look at Lev Dodin, who doesn't use Stanislavski terminology, but he invented his own terminology. He afraid of word. The rehearsal is over. Go. No, never would say over. Заканчивался репетиция. Oh, it's I mean you are dead. The only word he uses in the rehearsal, interruption. Interruption means tomorrow we will start again. Don't say word we over. Yes, we terminated. This is your final destination. I hate. Well, because of that, I hate the GPS, you know. This is your final destination. No! I would like to drive tomorrow. Dodin never would say, this is your final destination. Interruption and so on. Cantilena, because Cantilena is at the nature of Moscow Art Theater, nature of Stanislavski. In Russian words, дайте пожить восторгом. Give me right to have to be excited. You know, for the first rehearsal, when they did read the play, Stanislavski asked people who helped him, don't invite that actor, that actor, that. Why? They are good. They are good. That they are cynical. They would laughing. If they would laughing at the first reading of the play, they will destroy me the atmosphere of the first reading. The best actors, don't invite them for the first. It's like to invite someone for the first night of men and women, you know? Men and men doesn't matter. Don't invite them, because if they would start laughing, sex is laughing, actually. Sex is very strange stuff. But if you're in, you are happy. If you just also looking, don't invite people who are cynical. They don't should. And so on and so on. Then, another way, all of the disciples of Stanislavski, and he is great. All of the disciples of Stanislavski, the best, the genius, revolted against him. And this is the sign that Stanislavski is great. Michael Chekhov, who was religiously, he said in the first studio, he said, "Who are you? I am the man." I am the member of the secta believers in Stanislavski's religion. Secta. In few years, Stanislavski is good, but I should go my own way. In 1928, in Germany, when they met for the last time, what they were speaking about? They did speak about, should Misha come back to Soviet Union, or he left forever. No word about that. But in a letter of Michael Chekhov to his friend, he's saying, I was in a cafe in Kurfürstendamm in Berlin, waiting for him. And he's tall. Stanislavski is 2 meters. Chekhov is like that. The nickname of Michael Chekhov, you know what? Mouse. Gnida in Russian, even хуже, worse than mouse. Gnida, because of that kind of. Yeah. Stanislavski, Chekhov, his psychological gesture, his body. Chekhov, Stanislavski is sitting, waiting for Michael Chekhov. Then he said, looked at me, and Chekhov said, he looked at me like his typical impression. I am Stanislavski. Who are you? It's Chekhov and Stanislavski. And they were speaking about actors' technique. And Chekhov, last time in his life, was trying to say Stanislavski that he has his own system. You're difficult to say, but he did his own system. And all of the, I read you the terminology of Declan Donnellan. the same, different, but he had, Michael Chekhov, he invented his own term. What does it mean, psychological gesture? What does it mean, imaginary center of your body? What does it mean, atmosphere? What does it mean, taking the image from the sky, not to make a character, and so on and so on. Hundreds of great things, his unique experience. And finally, he said, which is funny now, Konstantin Sergeyevich, my system is much easier than yours. Much easier, look. But then, just to finish it, Michael Chekhov, who was teaching American actors, one of them now left for the class, but one of his most famous disciples was Marilyn Monroe. I would like to remind you one episode of Michael Chekhov and Marilyn Monroe, because it's about Russian. He looked at him, great Russian actor, everybody says great. She doesn't know that he's great. He doesn't know he's on stage. She doesn't see him on stage, yes? And they were rehearsal. He is a just rehearsal for money in Hollywood. And she's a young actress, is trying to get fame, but it's unknown. Part of the cherry orchard. And she is doing something, she is like Ranevskaya. And Michael Chekhov's looking at her like that, the hand like that. And she's playing. Then after the piece, she asked her, Marilyn, when you was doing the piece, what you was thinking? She says, I was thinking about the house, and this is over, and blah, 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 blah. No, no, you was thinking about something different. No, I was thinking about house and what I am doing. I would say you something now, Marilyn. It would be remembered. Probably it's silly to say, but I should. You have, he's saying to Marilyn Monroe, you have incredible, unbelievable sexual energy, which goes from you to everybody like wave in the ocean, like that. She started crying, because what kind of idiot? She's a theater teacher, and I'm an actress, I'm playing Ranevskaya, and I should be in a character of Ranevskaya. And she said that I'm sexual, you know. And Chekhov actually looked into the future. He said, I can see the time when thousands and millions of people would open their mouths to look at you. Very soon, she will go to Korea, to the military, and thousands of American soldiers, last for life. And you know what? She died. She died very young. And in her last will, she gave some of the money, of her money, to Michael Chekhov, because he discovered first in the world that kind of energy, which gives Marilyn Monroe a phenomenon in the world, you know, that blonde lady over the world. It's about amazing. Michael Chekhov, Stanislavski, Marilyn Monroe.
That's great. Listen, I want to turn the question a bit to the audience, to the chat coming in from the audience. And a couple of things have been mentioned. One is this great disparity between the Russian versions of Stanislavski and the American versions. That's the one question, which is a big question. And the second one is maybe for Declan and also from Yuliya, from what she knows of the training in Russia. Is Stanislavski in Russia still treated as a god when you start working with actors? Because he's obviously taught alongside Brecht and others. Is he still got that status for the Russian actor as he seems to have for actors in the West? Declan, do you have that?
As far as I know, he's still very much respected. I can't quite understand how you might speak of, how anyone might speak of Brecht and Stanislavski in the same thing. I mean, Stanislavski's trying to help people to act better. And Stanislavski's goal was very humble to begin with. He wanted to bring the standard of the worst possible actors, you know, the lowest, the poorest actors, up to the standard of the highest. And he did that. And he did that like we all do every day in the rehearsal room. You're always trying to make it better and better. But the problem is that people love rules. And that's a real problem. I think Moses was only given 2 commandments and it wasn't enough. And they kept sending him up the mountain to get to write. God said, the first two is enough, and use your imagination, your common sense. And they said, no, we want rules. And I know that when I teach directing, it's really interesting how many directors say to me, yes, but can't we just have some exercises, give us some exercises. And they kind of want to know how to do it before they know what they're doing. It's that terrible word, how. It's like we often talk about, the how-to book. But actually, you kind of need to have some idea where you're going rather than just doing exercises. So I think that one of the things that didn't help Stanislavski is that he was, and in my own way I felt that, people kind of corner you and torture you to giving explanations, to explain your work, which is a fantastic way to destroy any artist, because if you can explain it, it's dead. So you can't explain anything that's alive. So that's, explanations are really problematic. But also wanting a structure from him and rules and more rules. And this is the good way and that is the bad way. Whereas the way I see him, am I answering your question? I'm sorry, Michael, have I taken
no, that's good. Oh, no.
Stanislavski is like a key, he's like you've got a big key ring and Stanislavski's a key to the door, And if he opens the door, that's great. But it's pointless if somebody says to you, oh, but that was the wrong key. And you want to say, maybe it was the wrong key, but it opened the bloody door. And if it opens the door for you, you need to be grateful, not think, oh no, it opened the door, but it was the wrong key. And it's very, very, that's all the way through drama training. You kind of get things like that, but it's not imposed from the top down. It always looks like it's imposed from the top down, But people love rules much more than it's deceptive, because people like rules. Sometimes they like the rules so that they can break them, but it'd be boring if there weren't the rules for them to break. And I could just sort of see him doing this wonderful work and then being mauled for explanations, books, systems, and so on. He kind of goes at it and tries to do it as well as he can. But of course, he's a dynamic, living human being, and so his teachings keep changing. And every now and then he spawns somebody, and they go to the States, and they do. And he came over, of course, and he was horrified by a lot of the sense memory stuff that was going on. But he was criticised back for what he'd said himself. But it's like he didn't have an opportunity to say, yeah, but I changed my mind. If he came back now, I imagine he'd have changed his mind about the fourth wall. We can all change our minds, and that's a sign of life. Anyway, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, well, you certainly answered a question. That's brilliant. That's wonderful. Yuliya, when you were interviewing all these, you picked some very provocative directors and teachers to interview. I mean, did you find generally any resistance to talking about Stanislavski, or were they happy to talk about him? But because most of them, I think, are very good about themselves and their own work.
We have one rule with this kind of directors. With Kirill Serebrennikov, we decided at first, we had one rule. We won't talk about politics. We won't talk about his situation in theater. We are talking only about Stanislavski, only about the art. And it was interesting that in dialogue with Yuri Butusa, we talked about everything and about political aspects of theater, and it was really, really interesting, because I really like the moments like this. Yes, so it was many topics around this personality.
Given that political aspect, I was interested in that because obviously the film was financed by the Ministry of Culture. Were you under any constraints in making this film, in the sense, was there any censorship, or did you have to show a cut to anybody else in order to get permission to proceed and release the film?
Yes, we have to show the film to the Ministry of Culture, but I think it wasn't complicated aspects, and everything was okay. We had also one episode about American school, the school of Lee Strasberg Institute in New York, and unfortunately we cut it down this episode, But it was also very, very interesting because we tried to find the connection between Russian school and American school also. And I think I would like maybe to tell more about politics, about Stalin, about all this connection between the artist and the politics. But for me, the most important was the portrait of the great artist. Because in documentary filmmaking, I think we really must tell about big figures, big names, because it's like a chronicle shootings, you know. And I hope that everybody will want to watch Kirill Serebrennikov after 20 years, or Declan Donnellan, or Lev Dodin, maybe. I think it's really, really important, and I'm really grateful to this person.
May I add one thing, just a little bit about the bifurcation and an appropriation of Stanislavski? I think what's really interesting is what happens after 1925, after 1930, when the two to-be superpowers, the Soviet Union and the United States, appropriate him and twist him to their own ends. So he becomes a sort of methodology for the most dreary Soviet naturalism under the Soviets. You know, he's actually used to do that. But in the United States, he's privatized, commoditized, sold in a supermarket, and is doing well, living in a Winnebago with you know, with the stars meditating their way away from the ensemble on their own. And it's individualized in states, whereas in fact, Stanislavski, I don't think makes any sense at all unless you see it in the context of the ensemble, which is a Russian thing. It's not something you can buy, you know. It's not you can't buy them on a 3-for-2 offer. But I think that's very funny. I think that's very funny what happens, this bifurcation. And he's appropriated, and poor Stanislavski's there, and anyway, there you go. That's how I see it.
Yes, Yuliya, go ahead, please.
Few words to what just was said by Declan. In the States, you know that when Michael Chekhov finished his book about actor's technique, which is now one of the second book to Stanislavski, like popularity in the world and so on, he could not find the publisher for that book for many, many years. Because Americans' cliche about who is Chekhov, who is nobody, he's nobody, who is great, who is a real genius, Konstantin Stanislavski. He died years ago, and we published his book. If in your book there is no name of Stanislavski, we cannot even publish your book. And for many years, Michael Chekhov, what he was trying, he put Stanislavski name everywhere in the manuscript, saying, I am just disciple of Konstantin Stanislavski, despite that his book was very far away in other direction, which is, Declan says, which is important because Stanislavski he produced most of his enemies, his disciples, you should understand that. Meyerhold, Michael Chekhov, Vakhtangov, everyone. Disciples of Stanislavski, and all of them went in other directions. If someone, Yuliya or somebody in Russia, will make a movie about all of the great genius guys, disciples of Stanislavski, why he revolted, in what ways they revolted. There is a beautiful Vakhtangov revolt, real revolt against Stanislavski. Meyerhold, desperate. Michael Chekhov. Brecht, not his disciple, but also another. It would be great history of the 20th century theater because it goes like that, like multiply roads from Stanislavski. And opposition to Stanislavski is a great thing because they are children of him. My child is not myself. She is revolting against me. She goes in another direction. And someday I say, oh, it's another creature. It's another life. It's another future. And it's very important thing.
Yeah, it's
the
important.
Legacy of Stanislavski. Because you know what? In Bulgakov's play, Bulgakov and Stanislavski also had very conflict relationship. Finally, parted completely. And Bulgakov, as you know, wrote a book called a theatrical novel, or The Notes of a Dead Man.
Or Black Snow, as it's sometimes translated
Black
into
Snow,
some
yes.
version.
Look,
yeah.
And And oh my God.
The call from the Kremlin.
From the call from Kremlin. Not from Kremlin. And I would like to finish with in his play Molière, Bulgakov's play. There is a kind of what, how you call it? There something in the beginning of the book, kind of epigraph. Just 2 words, few words. Nothing is needed for his glory. It's Bulgakov about Molière. Nothing is needed for his glory. He is needed for our glory. This is Stanislavski about Molière, but this is Bulgakov about Molière, that we have to say it about Stanislavski. Everyone, he doesn't need us. We need him. And this is the problem philosophical of understanding, of making him alive, last for life. Last means all of the meanings of the word last, you know. Yesterday, I put the word last in my dictionary, in the dictionary of Google Translate. And I was sure that Google Translate is the best English pronunciation. And then the pronunciations of the last was like that. Last for life. I came to my daughter, who is an American. Last is last? She said, who said that? Google Translate. It's idiot. Idiots. Last for life. Last for life. Last for life. So what that's Stanislavski. Last for life. Okay. It's a yesterday, experience of yesterday, last for life. Google
this question, let me get in there, tell you, this question about bifurcations coming up in the chat, and people are asking or wanting to retell the influence of Stanislavski on Lee Strasberg and on Stella Adler. And this is all part of the great mythology surrounding Stanislavski.
It's American history.
It's American. It's American mythology and actor mythology.
It's
still not even clear whether Stanislavski spoke to Stella Adler when she came to Paris or spent any time with her, as she claimed.
And I spoke to her also in Paris when she came to the International Congress in '87.
And what did she say?
No, she was very old and she did not remember well. And you know, her experience with Stanislavski was very short. And we have in a letter of Stanislavski some few words about Stella. He did not remember her name and last name. He said, one young American lady, very cute and so on, came to me and said, I would like to be an actress. Could you teach me a little bit? And I spent a few days trying to explain, but it's pointless. And so something like that. The whole story about Stella Adler and Stanislavski's few words. Young lady came to me, you know.
Very good. Now listen, while we got you here, we all want to know this story. So Yuliya interviewed Serebrennikov, who mentions you, and talked about the visit of Meryl Streep to the Moscow Art Theater and kissing the stage, which was the wrong stage. Could you tell us whether that was true or not?
No, I'm not sure that it, you know, yeah, I probably also did not remember well, but I really don't remember the new stage, which is not, of course, Stanislavski's stage. I remember her very well. We are in the house of Moscow Art Theater, and she is with her daughter, and we are looking at the stage, and I'm saying some kind of stories, but I don't remember that she was kissing the stage. It's a very Russian, you know, stuff. I don't know. Probably it's an actor's over excitement, but kissing the stage, it's something. Stanislavski would, you know, himself say, what are you doing?
I think.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Declan.
Say one thing. I think that is the veneration of anybody or anything is very dangerous, because actually Stanislavski, like everything else, is a sign. It's like a signpost that's leading us somewhere else. So it's like kneeling down and worshipping the sign. If it's a good sign and it leads you to a good place, that's great. Say thank you and go on. But it's a sign. The danger is that you'll paralyze yourself by kneeling down in front of a sign that says, you know, Threskai or whatever it's saying, and you'll start to worship that and think that is the destination, but it's not. I think exactly the same about Shakespeare too, that it's not, we shouldn't actually venerate and study and give it reverence in itself. It's what's genius about it and about Stanislavski is that it's a sign that takes us somewhere else. And also true of Czech. Any great art is it's about something that suggests another place to look, I think.
And I think you've answered, in fact, one of the questions that came in on the chat, asking if there was any inherent contradiction in trying to identify, let alone preserve, a Stanislavski technique when he himself is so ready to review and question and adapt his own findings.
I would say briefly, yes. That, but what's much more important than any bloody technique is his spirit, which is very rare and which we need now, because it's that spirit of freedom being the other face of responsibility. That's what we need, and that comes down to us. Actually, almost comes down to us more through my life in arts than through the other big tomes. And it's his reverence. You know, like any great teacher, I think one of the great things about the great teachers that I've had is not the information that they've given me, but it's funny enough, it's the spectacle of them paying attention to something. You see a teacher and you see the eyes become present and alive when they're in the presence of something that really interests them, and they fall alive, and that is what I think great teaching is about. It's about the spectacle of the teacher doing it, and that's what I think is coherent from Stanislavski, and that's the important thing to come down, but not his exercises. You know, I mean, it's sort of really sad to think that like these are the magic exercises, and you get a kind of Gnostic, Kabbalistic set of things to do in rehearsal. It's going to make everything better. It's not like that. It's we need to be infused and inspired by him, and that is coherent, and that is worth thinking about. And
yeah. And Yuliya, I think that comes through in the film. I think all the people you talk to talk about that spirit side of him that they find so important and inspiring, not necessarily a technique or a series of prescriptions, but it's that inspiration. Is that not true again and again in the people you spoke to?
It was really about the spirit of Stanislavski. I have one short story about our post-production of this film, because for us it's very important to make a very clear sound, to make around Dolby Digital sound for cinema theaters. And we have very good sound designer, sound engineer, Evgeny Goryanov. And when we made a portrait of Stanislavski, a chronicle shoot with him, I've asked Zhenya to make a sense, like I told to him, we must make something with our sound to feel the Stanislavski presence in the cinema hall, you know. And every time when I looked at Stanislavski's face on the screen, it was really emotional moment for me, and I tried to convey this spirit, this sense of the personality. And I hope we did it. After this discussion, I think that we need to make the second part of the film after all the facts I've heard today.
The recommendation was that you centered around Anatoly Smeliansky. Anatoly, turning to you on this question, because this is such an interesting question. Somebody in the audience asked if you could talk about Stanislavski, the deep Orthodox roots of his belief. And also, I'd like to know about the Soviet era when so much of that in Stanislavski's writing was excised, censored, taken out of his text, the whole use of soul, spirit, etc.
Whom you ask?
You, Tolia.
Me?
Yeah, you know.
Of course, he was from the Orthodox religion, from Orthodox Church, and actually, you should remember this is one of the most important part of the birth of the Moscow Art Theater as an institution. Who helped him? Sava Morozov, old Russian believer, just in the 90s got some kind of freedom. all of the other Mamontov and so on, and most of the most richest important men in Moscow is all believers, and Stanislavski was all believer, and that's why many things of him. By the way, in the new collected works of Stanislavski, I was editor-in-chief. We should, in all of the Soviet letters, to restore all of the things which Soviet system, Soviet ideology did not allow him even to publish his letter. There is no word Christmas. There is no way to say that he is religious. There is no way to put the line that I cross you, God with you. Guys, when, Yulia, для тебя, when we are in the cemetery in Stanislavski, look at the guy, the worker guy saying, "Спи спокойно, товарищ Станиславский." But look at the grave. There is no cross. 57 years, the grave of the most religious director of this country with no cross, because they did not allow that. He's not religious. Only in the 90s, with the help of the Moscow Art Theater and some people, we erected the cross over his grave. You should understand that. By the way, Nemirovich Danchenko is not religious. Stanislavski is religious. At the end of the Slavic Bazaar, 18-hour talk, what was the climax, the most important point? Nemirovich, as every usual liberal, say, Konstantin Sergeyevich, we spent many hours, we have our plan now, and so on and so on. And I would like to talk you something very important. Since now, I would open my heart for you, and I will tell you everything which is important for me. You are more close for me than my wife, and so on and so on and so on. But instead, also, I hope that you will also open your heart, which is actually nothing to do. Yes, of course, I will open my heart. Who knows what would be tomorrow in 40 years? What Stanislavski said, he came pale, and his eyes became like something. And he said, "Sorry, Vladimir Ivanovich, I cannot do it. I cannot open my heart for you. You are, the meaning is you are not priest. I cannot open my heart for you." Because he was introvert, Nemirovich was extrovert. And in his book, From My Past, in his biographical book in the 30s, under Stalin, he remembered that episode and said, "This is the beginning of all our conflicts with Stanislavski." He refused to open his heart. And look at the grave, Nemirovich. I did not know his deepest convictions. That's the point. Never opened the heart.
Wow. And David Chambers remarks in a chat that none of this spirituality makes its way into the American version of the system.
At least in a written form, definitely. Because now we have new translation of Electra Prepares, new translation of My Life in Art, and I did participate in all of that. But the book is nothing, guys. Ask Declan. Book is great, but without real personal creativity now, there is no confirmation. That's why Stanislavski is a myth, legend. And the most important thing, if you would like to ask me, what is the most important thing of his legacy? Moscow Art Theater idea, and those few years before since the beginning until the revolution. This is the know-how of the Russian theater. It's a very big topic. It's a very complicated stuff, but creation of the Moscow Art Theater under the given circumstances and their short life before the revolution. This is the real topic for the movie, for the books, and for the everything, by the way.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Deep thoughts, as somebody said. Yuliya, somebody does ask, after making these documentaries, these 4 documentaries, which you've done at a very fast pace, I have to say, do you have any interest, ambitions to direct a dramatic movie or film? A fictional. Me? This is Yuliya.
The fiction film.
Yes.
Have I some ideas?
Yeah, do you have any interest in doing that now, or will you always remain a documentary filmmaker, do you think?
Yes, now I'm thinking of new documentaries also, because through making documentaries, through this process, I really explore the story, the history, explore the life. And my next topic will be the philosophy of sport. And it will be Russian figure skating. And it's really breathtaking topic because it's like a documentary thriller, you know, because in sports we have the same emotions as in the theater or cinema. And for me, it's really interesting to explore.
And the concentration in that film is going to be on a coach, I believe, is it, or is it on an actual figure skater? Are you concentrating and focusing on a person?
Yes, it's interesting because it's also will be concentrated on the system of preparing of the sportsmen, the Eteria Tudberidze school, Russian figure skating school. And I see some kind of connection between system inside the theater and system inside sport.
Fascinating. Good. Great. Listen, you've been very kind and giving us so much of your time. Just wonder if we go around and get any last minute thoughts, starting with Declan. I mean, this
later. I had a good thought and I've just forgotten it. So come back to me later.
I'll come back to you in a bit. But Tolia, what remains? What I think we've just started really about Stanislavski, the real Stanislavski, especially when you bring up all the politics that have been suppressed for so long. I mean, where do you think Stanislavski studies needs to go, or any new film that were ever to be made about him? Where do you think we have to be looking? Have we been looking in the wrong places?
This is a clear way for me to say what should be done, what kind of films, what kind of books. The idea of Moscow Art Theater, not Moscow Art Theater, just in January, could not pronounce the word. The idea of art theater, how it was developed and how it was died. What is the best way to continue the art theater? What we can do, when we can do for that, for the art theater, which is a Russian know-how, you know. It's the most important thing, and hundreds and thousands of documents how that kind of theater, that kind of idea can exist, and when that idea is dying, because we have now a few books in Russian, very important books. One of them is Inna Solovyova's book called Moscow Art Theater, Life and Adventures of the Ideas, of the idea of art theater. And this is a book about the time, which is, she pointed out, 1929, the year of a great fracture, when Stalin actually changed the face of Russia. This is the end of the art theater idea. Sometimes the idea can exist under any circumstances. In some days, in some era, in some time, the idea of art theater, not just Moscow art theater, the idea of art theater cannot exist like fish in a poisoned water. Probably some fish can exist, but art theater fish cannot exist, dying. That's the point. And we have to show that, because the history of the Moscow art theater is, until now, it's a kind of a Soviet, you know, stuff. This is our best theater of the world, the cleverest guy in the world, the genius man. Who knows why? Give the real drama, give the real process, give the real. This is the glory of Russia. Remember again, the Bulgakovs, you know, he doesn't need anything for his glory. We need his glory.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Declan, if you've not remembered what you're going to say, we have a very good question for you. Well, do say that, then I've got a very good question for you, a final one.
Can I just say, I think a really important thing about Stanislavski today, living today, is that he shows a proper reverence and respect for acting, and that in itself is incredibly valuable. We live in great danger today, I think, because acting has been commoditized, and with the incredible growth of television and so on, and very simple scripts that are written on the money, in which, you know, the plot has to move fast, and everybody has to feel the same thing at the same time. Everybody has to find the same character funny. Everybody has to find the same moment moving. Everybody has to find, there's a kind of fascism in that churning out. And there are actors who are employed because they can play it clear. And no mystery, there's no room for ambivalence. There's no room for ambivalence, no room for ambiguity, no room for mystery. And the fact that, and so what's awful is that actors are getting more money now. They're much more they're much more economically powerful now. I'm not saying I love television. Actually, I'm a complete addict of Swedish thrillers. I have to say, so I'm not being superior when I say that. But it does worry me what's happening to acting at the moment. That it's a sellable commodity, and and to sell itself, it has to plasticate it. It has to put itself in plastic wrapping, so you can get to the supermarket and put them in your. And you have to be very clear on every line. And maybe at the heart of a television series, you might find one ambivalent character, but actually you'll see that there around them are people who are very, very clear, and they're playing very clear, and the script writers, if they're successful, have to write very, very clearly. And I think that's really sad. And I think that Stanislavski's reverence for acting is more important now than ever, because I think acting is very political, because I think that actor says to us, sometimes I'm acting myself, and sometimes I'm acting this person, and sometimes I'm acting that. And the reason that acting is political is it reminds us that we have no single authentic self. We have many authentic selves. And there are many politicians who don't want us to know that, because they can't shame you if you're a lot of different people, If we are multitudes, we're much less easy to control. So I think acting has a mystical importance. Not mystical, it's got a kind of, this is really politically important. And Stanislavski's reverence for the art of acting, just not even what he says, just the fact he pays it so much attention and care and love, that in itself is inspiring. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
That's great. Just a quick question for you, Declan, that someone asked. Given the work that you've been doing with Russian actors over the years now, and French actors, and Italian actors, and soon Spanish actors, would you change things in your book?
Oh no, the basic problems facing every actor are exactly the same. I mean, there's actually no difference. I mean, there's cultural cutenesses that I could talk about. That lunch is better in France and the Russians are more. But the problem that intrinsic, the essential challenge facing an actor is the same that every human being has. So it's no, I don't change anything like that at all. I prefer to do it in Russia because I feel safer there, less judged there, and I pass for normal in Russia. Whereas here I'm a bit eccentric. So.
Very good. Well, we love that eccentricity for sure. Now, Yuliya, let me give you the last word. So this film is out now. It's going to be shown hopefully through Stage Russia in the American market. I think it's going to really initially probably confound people, because I think it's a film you need to watch a couple of times, because you do get a Russian point of view. I mean, were you conscious of that when you were making it? Did you think you might just be making it for a Russian audience, or were you looking for it to be comprehended by a worldwide audience?
Many people asked me about this moment, because everybody asks for whom the film is, and I think it's international, because this film for people who love theater, who are really dedicated to the theater, to this art. And for me, it's not so important which country is the leading country in this film, because we have only England, Russia, and little with America. And when I started my work, I thought about France, I thought about maybe Germany, because we wanted to connect many countries, but now I understand that my characters are so deep and so beautiful that we don't need to make this as it's only for England or only for Russia. It's for people who love art in general.
Yeah.
I'll jump in
Yeah.
and just say that it's being presented in July in Sofia, Bulgaria, and next week in Los Angeles, and in Boston, Tolia, and in Cleveland, and Detroit, or Michigan, and a couple of other cities, as just Philadelphia as just a limited release, and then we hope to do more after that. And
don't go to Utah.
We'll leave Utah out of it. But I agree with Yuliya. It's a very international film for any actor of any ilk.
Yeah.
And
and will it be on the Stage Russia website for downloading as well? Can people look at it there?
Yeah, we don't want to step on the toes of our cinema partners, so we'll give it a chance to be shown in cinemas first, and then within a short time, it will be probably on and easily accessible through public library platforms and through Canopy and through educational platforms like Digital Theater and Alexander Street and a few more. So we want it to be very accessible so that everybody can see it. And at the same time, we want some people to see it on the big screen first if they can.